you ready to read an article from the BBC with me? When you learn English with the news, it's a great way to learn advanced vocabulary, complex sentence structure, advanced grammar, and natural pronunciation in a really fun and engaging way. And I'll also share the link where you can download the PDF of the lesson that we reviewed today. Welcome back to JForrest English Training. Of course, I'm Jennifer, and this is your place to become a fluent, confident English speaker. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to our article. As you can see by this beautiful picture, we're talking about biodiversity. So first, let me read the article in full so you have a general idea of the context and you can pay attention to my pronunciation as well. And then I will explain some key vocabulary and grammar points. So I'll read the article in full now. Biodiversity. Can we set aside a third of our planet for nature? It's being called a last chance for nature. 100 countries backing calls to protect 30% of the planet. The aim is to reach this goal by 2030 and conserve forests and other vital ecosystems in order to restore the natural world. The 30 by 30 target is the key ambition of the UN Biodiversity Summit, COP15. But as the talks in Montreal, Canada move into their final days, there is division over this and many other targets. Scientists have warned that with forests and grasslands being lost at unprecedented rates and oceans under pressure from pollution and overfishing, humans are pushing the earth beyond safe limits. This includes increasing the risk of diseases like SARS-CoV-2, Ebola, and HIV, spilling over from wild animals into human populations. Under the proposed agreement, countries would sign up to targets to expand protected areas, such as nature reserves. It draws inspiration from the so-called father of biodiversity, the biologist Edward O. Wilson, who called for half of Earth to be protected. But there is debate over how much land and sea to include, and some scientists fear the targets may be diluted. So now let's talk about some of the key vocabulary and grammar concepts. If there's a specific word you don't understand or grammar concept, feel free to leave it in the comment section and I'll do my best to answer it. So let's start right at the title here, biodiversity. Can we set aside a third of our planet for nature? Excellent question. I certainly hope we can. Let's take a look at this, to set aside. This is a phrasal verb. So I have my verb, which is set, and my preposition aside. To set something aside. Now you set something aside. In this case, the something is a third of our planet for nature. When you set something aside, it means you reserve it. And generally, we reserve whatever that it is for a future use. So in the context of our planet, we're saying take 30% of it and reserve it. And we're going to reserve it for a specific purpose, and that, in this case, it's nature. So we're not going to use it for any other purpose. We use this a lot in a business context. For example, can you set aside a few minutes to discuss the project? So you could ask your boss this, your client this, a coworker this. In this case, we're talking about setting aside time because you have a set amount of time, 8 hours in your workday, right? And you're going to reserve an amount of time, in this case, just a few minutes for a specific purpose. And in this case, that specific purpose is to discuss the project. So for now, get comfortable using this with time, but you can absolutely practice with other somethings as well. Now, I do want to point out this is a question, and I know this because for one, I'm starting with my modal verb can, which is a question word, and I also have a question mark. Now, for pronunciation, if you go back to when I read the article, you may have noticed something called inflection when my voice raised at the end. We do that for yes or no questions. So I'm going to read this again and notice how my inflection rises, so my voice is higher at the very end of this word because it's a question. Can we set aside a third of our planet for nature? Nature. Remember, we do that for yes or no questions. So inflection for yes, no questions. Let's continue on. It's being called a last chance for nature. 100 countries backing calls to protect 30% of the planet. Okay, what does it mean to back calls? Are we talking about a telephone call? In this case, the call is to do something specific. You can call on someone to do something. For example, I call on the government to protect the environment. I'm not calling the government. I'm calling on the government. I'm requesting that they do something specific. Now, when I back a call, the verb to back, it means to support. So it's saying that 100 countries support protecting 30% of the planet. And remember, this call represents the request to do something. That's the call in this case. And back means to support. So let's think of an example. What could I say? The client wants us to back their price increase. Notice how I put the client singular, but then I put my possessive as a plural, their price increase. Native speakers do this because the client could be male or female. And when we don't want to be gender specific, we use their. This isn't official in the dictionary. It's a force of habit. The correct way, according to the dictionary, would be the client wants us to back his price increase, her price increase, or if you want to be gender neutral, you would have to say his or her price increase because there is no singular that represents both genders. So native speakers will frequently say their because it's just easier than saying his or her. Just keep that in mind though, because for your IELTS exam, this is not currently a grammar rule, is just something that we do. The client wants us to back his price increase. In this case, back, remember, it means support. You probably know this, or it might make sense to you when you think of the expression, the idiom in English, I got your back, I have your back. If you say that to someone, it means I support you. Don't worry, I have or I got your back. We use it with both the verb have or the verb got. Both of them are very common. I have your back, I got your back, and that means I support you. So that is where this comes from, perhaps, but now you learn this expression as well. So let's continue on. The aim is another way of saying goal. So if you want an alternative added to your vocabulary that sounds very formal and advanced, you can use aim. The aim of my project is to instead of the goal. The aim of the proposal. The aim is to reach this goal by 2030 and conserve forests and other vital ecosystems in order to restore the natural world. Vital is a great word to add to your vocabulary. It means necessary ecosystems and other vital. When something is vital, you cannot have an option without it. It has to be there. It's necessary. And other vital ecosystems. So for our planet, we can't not have fish in the sea. That would create widespread disaster across the world, right? So fish in the sea are vital. They're necessary. And an ecosystem is just one element of the world, one natural element of the world. I'll teach you an advanced sentence structure that you can use with the word vital, because we commonly say it's vital that I talk to the client today. So it's saying it's necessary, but vital sounds very strong. It sounds like if I don't talk to the client today, something bad will happen. It's vital. So it's very strong. It's almost a little dramatic. It will definitely get someone's attention. If somebody says it's vital that I talk to you today, I would want to know what that person wants to tell me because it sounds very important. Sometimes, even though this is already quite strong, we make this even stronger by saying it's absolutely vital that I talk to you today or the client today. This is to make it even stronger. But keep in mind, you don't need this because it's already very strong, but you can include it. So you might say, it's vital that I become a fluent and confident. I always like to add confident because I know a lot of students who are fluent, but they're not confident. So I always like to include both of those. It's vital that I become a fluent and confident English speaker. Now, it might be vital because you won't get the job without it, right? Or you won't be able to get a promotion without it. So this is a very nice sentence structure. And notice the sentence structure. To be vital, it is vital that, okay, that. And then you have a clause. A clause is simply a sentence. We have a subject, a verb, and an object. So to be vital, that, and then your clause. Practice that in the comments below. Let's continue on. The 30 by 30 target. This 30 by 30, well, think back. It was right here, 30%, right? By 2030. So it's just a clever way of saying 30% by 2030, 30 by 30 target is the key ambition of the UN Biodiversity Summit, COP15. You've probably heard about COP15. It's been in the news a lot recently. But as the talks in Montreal, Canada, woohoo, Montreal. I live 2 hours from Montreal, by the way. But as the talks in Montreal, Canada move into their final days, there is division over this and many other targets. If there's division means separation, right? So it means some countries want this, some countries want this. There's division. I guess another way of saying it might be disagreement. That's a good one. And notice our preposition. When you're learning a new word, it's useful to understand how it's used in a complete sentence. You need the preposition over. Division over something. And we would use over with disagreement as well. Disagreement over something And the something being this, so the this, I guess, is the 30 by 30 target. And many other targets. Scientists have warned that with forests and grasslands being lost at unprecedented rates and oceans under pressure from pollution and overfishing. Okay, let's just stop there because it's quite a long sentence. Unprecedented, unprecedented, unprecedented. When something is unprecedented, it means it's never happened before. It's never happened before. So this is the first time it's happening. The fact that forests and grasslands are disappearing, I'm just going to say 10% per year. No idea if that's correct. That has never happened before. It's unprecedented. Unprecedented rates and oceans under pressure from pollution and overfishing. Over added to the verb fishing. Overfishing means fishing too much. Fishing too much. Fishing too much. Overfishing. Humans are pushing the earth beyond safe limits. When you push something beyond a limit, so this is the limit, and earth is right here behind the limit. And the limit is you can't go beyond this, okay? But when you push it, it means you're going more than what is wanted or needed or required. So we use this a lot when we're doing tasks. I might say this, what task? This accounting problem is pushing us beyond our limits. And in this case, what could your limits be? Well, it could be your knowledge. So your knowledge of accounting is here, but this project requires your knowledge to be here, greater than what it currently is. So it could be your knowledge, it could be your time, your resources, many other things that could represent that limit. So that's a good expression, pushing beyond the limits there. Let's continue on. This includes, so they're listing how the earth is being pushed beyond its limits, more than wanted, needed, required, necessary. This includes increasing the risk of diseases like SARS, CoV-2, I don't know what this is, COVID-2, Ebola, and HIV. Spilling over from wild animals into human populations. When something spills over, it's another way of saying transfers. So let's say this problem is in the accounting department, which is here. But then I have the marketing department here. The problem should stay in the accounting department, but it might spill over into the marketing department, which means it transfers into the marketing department. So now that problem is in two places. So we do use this for general problems. So you might actually, a good example I just thought of was, my work is spilling over into my personal life. So your work should be here at work, but it's spilling over, it's transferring to, it's affecting. So I guess that's an easy way to think of it. When a problem or issue in one area starts affecting another area. So one area in this case is work, and the other area is your personal life. That happens a lot, right? It could be a conflict with someone is spilling over into another relationship, for example. So that's a good expression. Practice that one in the comments as well. It's more of an advanced sentence structure. And notice this double preposition. over, but then if you want to specify the part that's receiving the problem, you have to use into. Is spilling over, and then this into belongs to the area that's receiving it. So notice that for forming the sentence correctly. Let's continue on. Under the proposed agreement, proposed means that this has not been officially signed. So it's just proposed. It's not official. So something that has been suggested or recommended, but not official yet. Yet meaning that it can be official in the future, but it's also possible that it won't be official. Under the proposed agreement, countries would sign up to targets to expand protected areas such as nature reserves. It draws inspiration from the so-called father of biodiversity, the biologist Edward O. Wilson, who called for half of Earth to be protected. So here, we're seeing this again. He's not calling, he's not making a call, he's requesting something specific happen. So I don't know if I wrote the definition before, so I will now. To call for something, to request something specific to happen. For example, the activists called for laws to protect the environment. They requested. Let's continue. But there is debate over how much land and sea to include, and some scientists fear the targets may be diluted. Notice our preposition here, debate over. There's debate over something. I'm sure you know what debate means. It's when one person wants this, one person thinks that, and there is not agreement. But I just want you to notice the preposition here, debate over something. Now, diluted, in this case, is acting as an adjective because I have my verb be diluted. When you dilute something, you make it less strong. This is actually commonly used in cooking. So let's say I have this small glass of water, right? But let's say this is entirely lemon juice. That would be very strong. If I took a sip of that, it would be very strong. So if I want to dilute it, I need to make this less strong. How do I do that? Well, obviously, I can pour water in, and when I add water to this lemon juice, it will dilute the lemon juice. It will make it less strong. So we commonly use this with liquids. Let's say you got a cup of coffee and it was just very strong. The taste was so strong. You might dilute it by adding some water. You could do that. You might add some milk as well to make it less strong, but we commonly use it by adding water. Now, in this case, they're talking about the targets. So the targets may be diluted, which means less strong, right? Less strong, commonly used with cooking or beverages. I'm just going to write my example for you now. That lemon juice is too strong. Can I have some water so I can dilute it? In this case, it's being used as the active verb, to dilute something. In this case, it's being used as an adjective, to be diluted, and this is our adjective, diluted. Now, our targets. The targets may be diluted. So what are the targets that they're proposing? It was 30, right? 30%, 30 by 30, 30%. So if it's diluted, what would the target be? Well, it would be anything less than 30, right? That's how it would be less strong. So it might be 25%, 24%, 22%. Hopefully nothing like 10% or 5%, because if it were 5% or 10%, it would be severely diluted. I would say that. This is just, a little diluted. This is severely diluted. So that's how you would dilute a target. You would make it less strong. And remember, we commonly use this with beverages. So that's the end of our article. I hope you enjoyed it and enjoyed all the vocabulary and grammar. And the topic is very interesting, isn't it? I wonder if your country is going to participate and reserve 30% of your country just for natural environment. Do you think that's a good idea? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Amazing job with this lesson. Now, I've left the link to the PDF where you can review all the vocabulary, the sentence structure, the grammar right in the description. So if you look in the description of this video, you'll see the link. And if you found this video helpful, please hit the like button, share it with your friends, and of course, subscribe. And before you go, make sure you head on over to my website, JForrestEnglish.com, and download your free speaking guide. In this guide, I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. And until next time, happy studying.